Hello and welcome to day 5 of Master Online Workshops. Today we're going to be bringing everything together. So on day 1 we discussed overcoming your fear of presenting online, so simple tips to talk on camera like a pro. On day 2 was to help you master and embrace your tech. On day 3 was ways to restructure your slides, so tips for more effective PowerPoint presentations. And on day 4 was ways to change your offer, transitioning your offer from offline to online. So having done these 4 topics and grouping them all together, you should now be able to master your online workshops. Welcome to the 5th and final day of Master Online Workshops. I'm Rose Davidson from doesbiz.com, and today we're talking about bringing all of the elements that we've been learning this week all together. So in day 1, overcoming your fear of presenting online. We discussed that there was a science behind stage fright and what it means for performing in front of the camera, and there were 5 simple steps that you needed, that you could use to overcome your fear of presenting. We talked about streaming setup for beginners, and how that you didn't need a lot of equipment and it didn't have to be overly priced. You could buy relatively inexpensive equipment. We talked about the smartphones were really great for doing Facebook lives. However, they weren't so good for doing general live streaming, because a lot of the apps don't work on a smartphone. And we talked about the type of equipment that you might need. So you need a laptop or a desktop, a camera, a microphone, what type of lighting that you'd need. So you need to have the light sitting in front of you, and if it was in a dark room, you'd need some lamps or whatever there. Encoders, we talked about having separate encoders and what type, which was best, a hardware or a software one. We discussed how you could get away without buying a separate encoder if you used a live streaming program that already had one built in. We talked about having a great internet connection and software and streaming software. Day 3 was about PowerPoint presentations and some simple tips and tricks that you could use for animating and transitioning your slides. We talked about the importance of content on your PowerPoint slides and how it must be spot on, because no one wants to see you on the screen the whole time. They need to be entertained, and this is where the PowerPoint slides came into play. The slides had to be engaging but not cramped with information, and they needed to be set out in such a way as not to overwhelm your viewer, because they still want to, or you still wanted them to listen to you. Then some of the 10 tips were to write a script, only talk about one thing at a time, don't use paragraphs, make sure your design is spot on, use images sparingly, and think outside the screen, remembering that the slides on the screen are only part of your presentation and not the main part. Even though you're liable to be presenting in a darkened room, give some thought to your own presentation manner, how you hold yourself, what you wear, and how you animate your hands on the screen. You are the focus when you're presenting, no matter how interesting your slides are. You need to have a hook, so you could bring in some humor, tell a story, use metaphors, remember to ask questions, modulate your tone, so don't be monotone, and yeah, you're allowed to break the rules because nothing's set in concrete. And the difference, we talked about the difference between animations and transitions. And I will go into that in more detail in my upcoming intensive 1-month program. Day 4 was all about transitioning your offer from offline to online, so that when you were doing offline events, it was easy to get a customer to buy from you because you were pitching your offer to them personally, and they could just go to the back of the room or whatever and just buy whatever it is that you were selling. It was a little bit more difficult online because they just couldn't produce the cash or use an FPOS machine. So how were you going to do that? We talked about the offer or sales pitch and how to transfer that from an offline to online workshops, and how your offer or sales pitch had to be more compelling, more dynamic, and more inviting. They had to be clear. The first steps in creating your irresistible offer is to be clear about whatever it is that you're selling. Confused people will not buy from you. This is where your copywriting skills must come into play, and you need to ensure that you develop and deliver a very clear and easily understood offer if you want people to purchase. So don't cloud the words, and you need to relate the offer in the correct way. To use numbers, dates, and percentages to portray specifics of the offer, while ensuring that the title is intriguing and relevant to your audience, so that it makes a promise that can be delivered. We didn't go a lot into finances, and only that there were some services that you could use, like Stripe, PayPal, or direct bank deposit. And one of your homework tasks for day 4 were to do a bit of investigation and post your comments in under the unit. So what you can do now? So what you can do now? What can you do now? Well, you should now be on your way to overcoming your fears and comfortable with going live. You are now aware of the things you need to know to master and embrace your tech equipment. You have discovered simple PowerPoint animations, tips and tricks, and how to change your offer from offline to online. So your homework for today was to leave feedback in the group discussing your learnings, and if you feel you have gained some knowledge for this challenge, I would love it if you would post a recommendation on my business page, and I'll leave a link in the unit thread. Where to now? We won't be in lockdown forever, with some states now easing restrictions. However, it is my feeling that doing online events will become more of the norm into the future, as people have had a taste and managed very well. With that in mind, I have a special offer for those in the group. I am offering you a no obligation 30-minute discovery call to discuss how you might easily transition your workshops from offline to online. I will leave a link in the unit if you would like to discuss this further. And please watch out for my upcoming 1-month intensive program, where I go more in depth on the subjects that we have covered in the past 4 days. In the program, you will receive one-to-one attention for 3 months after the program finish date, and I'm super excited to be offering this for the first time. I look forward to seeing your homework in the group in the unit thread, and I thank you for participating in the 5-day challenge.